Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, it's Deb in Halifax.
Hi, it's Simone in Vancouver.
Hey, it's Tanya in Edmonton.
And we are so excited to be back. And this round, we have the author, Nita Prose, the author, of course, of The Mystery Guest.
Such a good book. So, Deb, why don't you give us a little synopsis and a little intel into Molly before we talk to Nita?
Yay. Yes, indeed. Oh, my goodness. So Molly Gray is not like anyone else, is she? She's got a flair for cleaning and proper etiquette, and she has risen through the ranks of the glorious 5-star Regency Grand Hotel to become the esteemed head maid, don't you know? But just as her life reaches a pinnacle state of perfection, her world is turned upside down when J.D. Grimthorpe, the world-renowned mystery author, drops dead, very dead. On the hotel's tea room floor. And then Detective Stark, Molly's old foe, investigates the author's unexpected demise. It becomes clear that this death was murder, most foul. This case, of course, threatens the hotel's pristine reputation, and Molly holds the key to unlocking the killer's identity, and that key is buried deep in her past, and she knows, like I think a lot of people know, that dirty secrets don't stay buried forever.
Mm-hmm. Such a juicy book. The perfect time to talk to the author, Nita Prose. Hi, Nita. Thank you so much for being a part of our Relaxing Reads podcast today.
Hello. How are you?
We are good, thank you. So lovely to have you. And Deb, you can lead us off with the start of our questions.
Okay. Nita, for many of us, we already know the main character, Molly, from The Maid. But if you are just discovering her in The Mystery Guest, you'll quickly see how charming she is. She's such a great character. How did you, or when did you decide that you could offer readers a little more about Molly and her life?
Well, I think after The Maid was doing quite well, I was fielding a lot of phone calls from my agent and from publishers who were asking for one thing. And so were a lot of readers. They wanted more Molly. And, it's funny because when I finished writing the first book, The Maid, I just felt like, okay, well, she's not mine anymore. Molly now belongs to readers. But when I was put with a question, I sort of had to think, well, can I deliver more? And the question for me was, can I deliver more without giving less? We've all had those experiences where there's a sequel, whether it's a film or a movie, and what comes second is not always as strong as the first. So it took me some doing to actually figure out the new tapestry for the book. But fortunately, I was sort of hit by, a good idea while I was in the UK. And I was actually at a museum. And I stumbled across this strange display in the museum, which included the mummified body of a rat and a single silver spoon. Now, this was a castle. It had been renovated from the 17th century. And as it turns out, a maid had once worked there. This is all true. I never made any of this up. And she had come across a silver spoon or whatever in the kitchen. And then she was accused of stealing it. And she was frog-marched out the door. And then many years later, when they were renovating that castle, the builders found a mummified rat in the walls. And beside that, the silver spoon. And, somehow this funny little moment in this museum gave me a whole new idea for the second book. I could almost hear Gran's voice in my head, be careful what you assume. Nothing is ever as it seems, and the past will never stay buried forever. And with her voice ringing in my head, I set out to write the sequel, The Mystery Guest.
We're so glad that you heard Gran in your head.
Me too.
I, for one, loved Gran. I absolutely loved her. Nita, my name's Tanya. I'm from Edmonton, and I did not read your first book. So I am coming into this book brand new to Molly and all the amazing characters that you have written. It was quite fun. It was quite fun reading. And one of the things I love about books is often the messages that authors are putting inside their books. So the message in your book, I feel that, I think we need more and more of, like, every day, and we need to be reminded about, is kindness and acceptance for those who are different from us, i.e.
Yes.
Molly. So is that always top of mind as a writer, to offer those good vibes, even if you have a questionable cast of characters?
Well, for me, the challenge was, how do I write about very dark themes, and there are some very dark themes in both books, with the lightest possible touch? So with that in mind, that's sort of how I set the tone for both books. So often, I feel like the headlines challenge us. The doom and gloom of everyday life becomes very difficult to bear, and so we look away. And what I wanted to do was offer readers a world, a sort of floating, surreal world that would be both recognizable and that they could look at without separating themselves from, where kindness in the end does win over. But, Molly has to go through all kinds of travails and difficulties in order to get there.
Yeah. And, I in particular, when I'm reading, of course, I don't have the experience from the other book, but just reading about how you wrote Molly in this book. And I just really connected to Molly as a little girl. She's inquisitive. She's highly intelligent, but yet nobody gets her. And it's like Molly the mutant, oddball Moll. And I just think, oh, my gosh, I remember kids being called that in school.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And for her to kind of get to the level of where she's at, she's head maid and she actually is quite brilliant. And I just really loved reading about her.
Well, I love the fact that there's a reader out there who read the mystery guest first and not the maid.
There you go.
Yeah, Tanya hadn't quite joined our book club at that point. And so when we started talking about this in our previous discussion, Deb and I were just gushing about all this stuff. And Tanya's like, wait, what? And I was like, oh, I forgot. You haven't read it. You have to go back now and learn a little bit more about Molly and how she's kind of come into her own here. And, I like that you said you're kind of keeping it light in the dark themes. It's not kind of like a gruesome murder mystery. I don't know if you'd call it a fun murder mystery, but you've got some great characters. Of course, you got Molly, you got Gran, you got Detective Stark, and then you got the Lambs. Was there any particular character you really enjoyed writing for?
I loved all the characters, and writing Mr. Preston and Gran was really, really fun. There were odd characters that challenged me in funny ways. And one of them was Giselle in the first book. She was a bit difficult because she never did what I expected her to do. She's this sort of sugar girl attached to Mr. Black, this famous tycoon's arm all the time. And whenever I'd put her in a scene, I'd expect her to behave one way and she would behave another way. And I judged her. What I realized is that I was judging that character. And I think that's something that you have to be very careful of as a writer. You have to let the characters define themselves and let the scenes happen. And sometimes those scenes can be the most powerful ones. And what I found with Giselle and Molly was whenever they were in a room together, suddenly we could see that they were actually two sides of the same coin. They're both different kinds of women who are invisible for different reasons. One, because she's always in the shadow of the wealthy man who keeps her, and Molly because of her job and because of her invisibility as a maid, not to mention the fact that, she does have so much difficulty with social cues and that sometimes makes her a bit invisible too.
We'd mentioned Gran for a second there, and she had so many phrases and sayings that she passed along to Molly. A deep cleaning gives life meaning. Stories are a way to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. And I think we probably all know someone who has these sayings that either we heard when we were younger or at some point in our life where it didn't mean much to us at the time. And then we find ourselves using those phrases today, perhaps. Did you have a favorite?
Oh dear. I think probably the end line of The Maid is my favorite. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. That is something I hear echoing in my head. Yeah. And I think a lot of Gran sayings are sayings that I've heard before or that my mother used to say to me when she was alive. And it's as though, in her absence, she's been gone several years now, but in her absence, that voice somehow, through the power of imagination, grows stronger. And I'm really fascinated by that, how in death we can sort of resurrect a person, and in their absence, the essence of who they are can actually ring sometimes more true than when they were actually present and alive.
And what I love is
absolutely.
Molly makes you want to clean. Like, she makes cleaning fun. Like, normally, I know for me, I've got a house full of boys and it's always a mess. But when I look at how optimistic Molly is, and if you're stressed out or you're feeling a certain way, it's just grab a broom or a mop and get dusting.
Get dusting. Well, this is
I think
year for spring cleaning, right?
Yeah.
I need Molly to come visit me. And it's funny when we were talking about when you're writing The Lambs, and the character Beulah kind of struck a chord with me because it was the cat hair that is on her, and it's like I have 3 cats, and I make it my purpose to not leave the house without getting every single bit of cat hair off me because I don't want to be the cat person with cat hair on them, right? So every time I was reading about Beulah, I'm like, oh, I can taste the cat hair.
That sweater.
So crazy.
I can see that sweater.
Yeah, I can see the sweater. I'm like, oh, dear Lord. Nita, I was wondering, it was an interesting relationship that Molly and Detective Stark had. They were sort of just at each other, and the detective didn't really think that, obviously there's history there, I'm thinking, from the previous book. But then, they kind of make amends towards the end of the book, and Detective Stark is looks at Molly and says, wow, like you actually are very, you notice things, you'd make a great detective. And then in the epilogue, it kind of hints that maybe Molly is going to be doing something else. Is she going to become a detective? Is she entertaining that idea?
Well, I think she entertains it, but what's going to happen might be a little different than readers might expect. So I am hard at work on the next book, and the next one will come out in October. It's available for pre-order now. It's called The Mistletoe Mystery, and in it we will discover what Molly is doing in her future. But that book is set around the holidays. And Molly is about to get one of the greatest gifts of her life, but unfortunately she does not know it.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
I thought she got a great gift with Mr. Preston.
Well, she does.
In this book, I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh.
You know where he comes from? There's a hotel in Toronto called the King Edward Hotel, which I'm sure some listeners are familiar with. Yeah. So many years ago, when I was an editor working at Penguin Random House, I used to pass that hotel every day. And there was this doorman who wore this beautiful greatcoat and a little cap. And he was an elderly man, and he tapped he would like sort of tip his cap at me every single day as I passed him on the street. And we never said a word to each other over the, almost 10 years that I passed him day and night. But somehow I felt like he watched over me, And so I stole him from reality, and I put him in a book. And the weird thing that happened is that as Mr. Preston, a fictional character, he feels even more real to me in the pages than he did in real life.
Wow.
That's so interesting, like how just things, from your world or your past just kind of come to you. And I really loved that you were able to create this story from your experience, seeing the display of the maid, the rat, and the spoon. So how often, Nita, would you say you come across things like this, or seeing a Mr. Preston type that you think, oh my goodness, this should be a book idea. This should be a part of it?
Well, it's weird because it doesn't happen like that. It's just something that makes an impression at the time, and then I forget about it entirely. But when I start to put my head in an idea for a book, all of this true life material surfaces. And I don't know. It's like I have a bric-a-brac shop in my mind, some sort of store where I keep these little memories, and I take them off the shelves one by one as I need them, and I repurpose them, bringing sort of a truth from life into fiction, which is a way to build belief in a story.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we do that with people in our life, don't we?
Yes, I think you're right.
They say that, people come in for a short time, a long time. Everybody has a purpose. So the people that you meet or that are part of your life.
I think that's true. People, experiences, little little discrete memories. All of these things for a writer become the fuel of fiction, you know?
Nita, when I was reading the book, I often like to think about, like, what would this play out like a movie, you know? Like, who would you cast? And, you know, when I was reading it, I was quite taken with Mr. Snow. And he, in my mind, you know, there's the movie Julia Roberts, Richard Gere.
Pretty Woman.
Julia Roberts.
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. And the hotel manager in that film, and he ends up helping her, and he's just this lovely, gracious man. And I kind of saw Mr. Snow as him a little bit, and Mr. Preston at the same time. Like, he sort of kind of morphed into both those characters. Anyway, so yeah, I always have fun. Who do you think would play Molly?
Well, Universal Pictures actually holds the right, and Florence Pugh is set to star.
Oh, no kidding.
What?
Yeah, so we'll see if that holds. You know, one never knows.
Wow.
But
How
my gosh.
exciting.
I feel like you just dropped a little Fabergé egg for us, an Easter egg in that little detail.
there you go, glittering gold.
Oh, this is fantastic.
That would be amazing. So,
Yeah, I think she'd be stellar.
wow.
Very exciting.
Well, we love the book, Nita. We're going to have Tanya go back and read The Maid, and we would love to.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, hopefully go and get a chance to read your new book coming out this October, because we are big fans of the line. We are big fans of Molly, and thanks for giving us all that little intel. It just gets us excited for the future.
Well, thank you so much for reading the book and for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you
as
so
do we.
much, Nita.
Wow.
exciting.
She gave us so much good information. You know, sometimes it's like, there's something I can't really tell you, this, that. It's just like, boom, new book, possible movie, who's playing the character.
Universal and
Yeah.
I love it.
Wow.
oh my God, I'm excited.
I just
about
saw,
the,
wasn't she Florence? Wasn't she in
Something
my mind is
recently.
just going with
Yeah, I know
with-
her
with
name.
the one that won all the Academy Awards. She was the one that was naked, sitting in the chair.
Oppenheimer, Don't Worry, Darling.
Oppenheimer.
She's in Black
Oppenheimer.
Widow,
Yes.
Midsummer,
Yeah.
Dune, Little Women. She was in that. So, yeah, she's been in a
wow,
lot of
yeah.
stuff. I'm just looking at her. Okay, so it's not how I pictured Molly. I feel like Molly would have like brunette hair. No?
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
Florence will have to dye her hair for that.
She will.
yes.
I agree.
Yes.
But
Yes.
incredible. Yeah, that was a great chat.
Yeah,
That was
and
really
the,
great.
The holiday-related book too.
Yes. That would be a good read for us for the holidays for sure.
For the holidays, yeah. Is
And-
that next year, she said? Is that coming out this
October.
December or next?
She said this
Oh,
October.
okay. This October.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to
That's
watch
pretty
for
quick,
it.
yeah.
Mistletoe
Okay.
Mystery. I just
Yeah.
looked. So the Mistletoe Mystery, a maid novella. So it says Molly the Maid has a whole new mystery to solve in this heartwarming novella from the author of The Maid and Mystery Guest. She has always loved the holidays. When Molly was a child, her Gran went to great lengths to make the season merry and bright. The first few Christmases without Gran were hard on Molly, but this year her beloved boyfriend and fellow festive spirit Juan Manuel is intent on making the season Molly's most joyful yet. But when a secret Santa gift exchange at the Regency Grand Hotel raises questions about who Molly can and cannot trust, she dives headfirst into solving her most consequential and personal mystery yet.
Oh my God.
Well, see, remember when we had our discussion? I'm like, who's Juan Manuel?
Yeah.
Like, and you're like,
Oh, yeah,
you guys are
yeah.
like, oh, you got to read. Like, I'm like, okay. So I seriously have to read the other book.
Yes, get all caught up before we get into her third one. Perfect. So thanks for listening along with us. And the next book we're currently reading is Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. So if you want to read that one along with us, and we'll soon share our thoughts on that book as well.
Yes, looking forward to that one.
Lovely chatting with you both. Have a great day.
You too.
Perfect.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.